Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar. 1:43 p.m. Bright afternoon, clear skies, perfect visibility across the desert apron. 11,000 American personnel on one square of concrete that powers the entire region. F-15E Strike Eagles, F-35 A Lightning IIs, MQ-9 Reapers, KC-135 tankers, command nodes feeding CENTCOM's forward brain. Then Iranian radar operators light up their scopes across the Gulf. Massive launches detected. This is that story. 1:43:06 p.m. Space-based infrared sees it first. Heat blooms in 6 separate grids across Iran, each flare a missile motor igniting in broad daylight. 4 seconds. That's all it takes for the alert to hit U.S. networks end to end. The message is blunt. 38 inbound, mixed ballistic and cruise, all aimed at one objective, Al Udeid. 1:43:15 p.m. Sirens. Long, continuous, unmistakable. Nike's ballistic missile warning. This is not a drill. You can see it in the open ramps. Crews stop moving. Heads snap toward shelters. Forklifts abandon pallets. Jets freeze mid-tow. 11,000 people start running. 1:43:32 p.m. The base defense net wakes up like a predator. 4 Patriot batteries go hot. Phased array radars scanning. Track files multiplying. 2 THAAD launchers stand up. Terminal engagement solutions calculating in seconds. 6 CRAM phalanx systems spool to life. 20mm barrels beginning to whine. Iran believes saturation breaks any shield. They are wrong. 1:44 p.m. Inside hardened command spaces, U.S. Central Command. Forward nodes already move past defense. Retaliation authorization transmits while Iranian missiles are still climbing. The decision is instant, pre-built, rehearsed. Iran has just crossed the line that triggers total destruction of every node that enabled the launch. 1:44:18 p.m. Across the Gulf, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group receives the flash. Distance, 60 miles. Time to weapons launch, measured in minutes. Strike packages go from alert to airborne without debate. What happens in the next 44 minutes becomes the fastest regional punish and disable sequence Iran has ever faced. 1:44:41 p.m. In Al Udeid's shelters, the sound changes. Not sirens now. The first Patriot interceptors crack out of launch tubes, violent white arcs climbing into clear sky. PAC-3 MSE rounds, hit to kill, hunting ballistic bodies at closing speeds that shred human comprehension. One impact is a silent flash at altitude. Then debris. 1:45:07 p.m. First intercept confirmed. Then a second. Then 3 more in rapid succession. The afternoon sun makes every contrail visible for miles. Defense lines drawn across the sky like chalk marks on glass. Iran's plan depends on simultaneous impacts. Those impacts start dying one by one. 1:45:33 p.m. Cruise missiles enter the equation. Lower, faster, using terrain and sea-skimming routes. Harder to see, harder to kill. But Al Udeid isn't blind, it's layered. Fighter CAPs are already vectored, radars slaving to the composite track picture. 1:46:02 p.m. Over the Eisenhower, the deck becomes a moving factory. 48 FA-18 Super Hornets launch in disciplined intervals, catapults firing like metronomes. Each jet carries a strike loadout built for radar kill, bunker bust, and follow-on suppression. EA-18G Growlers spool behind them, with electronic warfare ready to suffocate Iranian sensors. This is not a warning flight. This is a strike train. 1:46:19 p.m. At Al Udeid, F-35A Lightning IIs surge into the air between defensive cycles. Stealth profiles built to penetrate. not posture. They climb into a sky so clear it feels unfair. Iran's commanders believe their air defenses will punish any counterstrike. They won't even see most of it. 1:46:47 p.m. Back over Iran, the 6 launch zones that started this now become target icons. Launch crews still celebrating their perfect salvo. Commanders still expecting footage of burning runways. Instead, their locations are being turned into coordinates, then weapon quality tracks, then death sentences. Never mistake speed for safety. 1:47:11 p.m. Al-Udeid's Patriots keep firing. Interceptors climb, pivot, correct, collide. Ballistic bodies explode at altitude, fragments scattering, the sky briefly glittering like metal rain. Thud joins, higher intercept windows, terminal shots that erase the most dangerous trajectories before they can steepen. Iran's missile math starts collapsing. 1:47:38 p.m. The first catastrophic mistake becomes obvious. Iran assumes Al-Udeid is a static base with point defenses. Reality, it is the most defended hub and theater, built to survive exactly this. 1:48:03 p.m. Second mistake. Iran assumes launch detection takes minutes. Reality, it takes seconds, and every allied sensor shares the same picture immediately. 1:48:29 p.m. Third mistake. Iran assumes air power needs time to assemble. Reality, strike aircraft are already within one sortie of Iranian coast, and submarines are already positioned to fire. 1:48:55 p.m. Fourth mistake. Iran assumes cruise missiles slipping low will bypass the umbrella. Reality, fighters and short-range guns exist specifically to shred what leaks through. 1:49:21 p.m. Fifth mistake. Iran assumes escalation buys negotiation leverage. Reality, attacking a major American installation activates a pre-authorized campaign to erase launch infrastructure. 1:49:44 p.m. Sixth mistake. Iran assumes it can hide the chain of command behind bunkers. Reality, command bunkers are just targets with better coordinates. This is what happens when you try to blind the region's main air hub. This is what happens when you fire first. 1:50:06 p.m. Cruise missiles finally hit the outer engagement zone. F-15. EAs engage with air-to-air missiles, clean shots, controlled kills. 3 cruise bodies vanish in mid-air, so their fragments spiraling down in sunlight. But others press in, stubborn and low. The base defense net tightens. 1:50:33 p.m. C-RAM begins chewing the sky. 6 systems, each throwing 4,500 rounds per minute. A wall of tracers appears, visible even from the highway outside the perimeter. 1 missile shreds, then another, and another. 1:51:02 p.m. A handful leak through. Not many, just enough to prove the attack was real. 1 warhead detonates near a fuel node. A second strikes a hardened edge of the airfield complex. A third impacts infrastructure. Damage, smoke, debris. No mass casualty event. No runway graveyard. Iran's Pearl Harbor dies in plain view. 1:51:30 p.m. American decision-makers don't pause to admire the intercept tally. The retaliation clock is already running. EA-18G Growlers reach their electronic line and begin jamming. Iranian radar screens start lying to their operators. Ghost tracks, blank sectors, impossible returns. Iran's air defense network begins going blind in broad daylight. 1:52:05 p.m. Anti-radiation missiles launch. A GM-88 harm seekers ride Iranian emissions like a scent trail. Any radar that transmits becomes a beacon. Any beacon becomes a crater. Within minutes, Early warning dishes along the Gulf-facing arc start disappearing from the map. 1:52:41 p.m. From beneath the sea, the next wave leaves the tubes. Tomahawk cruise missiles. Low, fast, disciplined. Each one following a preloaded route through gaps in coverage that now exist because Growlers made them. Iran thinks submarines are distant rumors. They are close reality. 1:53:18 p.m. B-1B. Lancers already airborne over the Arabian Sea receive final targeting data. JSSM-ER-class missiles, standoff weapons designed to penetrate defended airspace without asking permission. Release authority is granted. The first batch drops free and lights up, heading north. This is the moment Iran loses control of the timeline. 1:54:02 p.m. The first Iranian launch facility gets hit. A flash, then secondary explosions as stored propellant and warheads cook off. A command building collapses inward, dust plume rising straight up in clear air. The smoke column is visible for miles. Visibility becomes psychological warfare. Everyone can see what is happening, and no one can stop it. 1:55:11 p.m. second sight. Multiple impacts, spaced precisely, designed to kill the launch rails, the fuel points, the command vans, the reload crews. Iran's ability to do it again starts dying. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. This is that story. Remember it. 1:56:06 p.m. Third sight. A runway complex used to move missile components is cratered into an unusable grid. Hardened shelters take penetrators, doors blown, interiors igniting. Vehicles burn in neat lines like a diagram. Iran's crews run, but there is nowhere to run that isn't already in the target list. 1:57:02 p.m. Fourth sight. A bunker meant to survive air attack takes multiple strikes in sequence. Open, penetrate, collapse. The ground heaves. Shockwaves ripple dust across adjacent lots. The message is simple. You cannot build enough concrete to outlast precision. 1:58:10 p.m. Fifth sight. Missile storage goes up in chained detonations, each blast feeding the next. Flames climb. Fragments scatter. The afternoon sun catches the smoke and turns it into a black pillar, visible for miles, visible to everyone. 1:59:24 p.m. Sixth sight. The final origin point of the 38 missile gamble. It gets erased methodically. Radar first, command second, launch hardware third, fuel and storage last. No heroic last stand, no recovery plan, only destruction. 2:03 p.m. Now the strike expands. Secondary nodes, production halls, guidance workshops, transport depots start taking hits. Because disabling launchers isn't enough. The U.S. response is designed to cut the program at the root. Crews, logistics, spares, manufacturing. Never threaten American hubs and expect your strategic assets to survive. 2:01:18 p.m. Al Udeid completes rapid damage assessment. Aircraft damaged. 2. Personnel wounded. 13. No fatalities. 0. Operations continue. Iran's objective was to kill thousands and eliminate U.S. air power. Instead, it has triggered a regional demolition run. 2:02:05 p.m. F-35 has reached their release points. Stormbreaker-class smart weapons separate cleanly, glide, self-sort, and hunt moving or concealed targets. Iran's mobile launch vehicles, if any are trying to relocate, become casualties in motion. Stealth plus precision equals inevitability. 2:03:17 p.m. Command infrastructure near Tehran takes impacts. The buildings that issued the order to fire now lose their ability to coordinate anything. Communications go dark. Backup systems fail. Staff runs into corridors that don't lead anywhere safe. This is what happens when you try to shift the balance of power permanently. 2:04:40 p.m. More Tomahawks arrive on schedule. They don't improvise. They don't hesitate. They hit pre-planned aim points with the cold efficiency of mathematics. Iran's ability to mass fires evaporates as fuel, warheads, and reload infrastructure detonate in place. 2:06:02 p.m. Growlers keep the air blind. Every time a radar tries to come back up, it becomes a target again. Harm threats linger. Air defense crews learn a brutal lesson. In this fight, emitting is dying. 2:08:15 p.m. Additional strikes land on barracks and support compounds tied to missile units. Not symbolic, functional. If you remove the crews, you remove the capability. Iran's missile program is not just metal and fuel. It is people. Those people are now casualties. 2:10:03 p.m. Across the region, allies watch the same feed. The message travels faster than diplomacy. You don't get a clean shot at American installations. You get retaliation with speed that crushes your planning cycle. 2:12:41 p.m. Al-Udeid's air picture stabilizes. The intercept tally locks in. The inbound threat is finished. The retaliation, however, is still rolling. This is the turning point. Share it. Remember it. This is what overwhelming response looks like. 2:15:06 p.m. Strike waves hit remaining high-value missile support nodes, fuel points, logistics depots, maintenance lines. Iran's ability to rebuild in weeks turns into months, then years. The afternoon sun keeps everything exposed, every fireball visible, every plume a signal to commanders who now understand they have miscalculated. 2:18:32 p.m. Final Polish strikes. Not because the U.S. is angry, because doctrine says, ensure the target cannot regenerate. When you destroy a capability, you destroy the possibility of its return. This is what happens when you test American red lines. 2:20:11 p.m. Communications across key Iranian military districts fracture. Commanders cannot confirm what is alive. Units cannot receive clear orders. In the fog of shattered networks, the only clarity is the sound of impacts. 2:23:40 p.m. Al-Udeid resumes full sortie generation. Tankers reposition. Fighters cycle. Drones go back up. The base remains the hub. Iran's attempt to cripple it has failed in broad daylight, under perfect visibility, in full view of a world that can count the minutes. 2:27 p.m. 44 minutes after the first Iranian launch, the retaliation phase reaches its planned end state. Multiple Iranian military sites involved in the attack are burning. Launch infrastructure is eliminated. Command bunkers are breached or collapsed. The program is set back hard. 1:43 p.m. Iran launches 38 missiles. 1:43 p.m. Al-Udeid sirens scream. 1:44 p.m. Retaliation authorization transmits while missiles are still in flight. 1:45 p.m. Patriots begin killing ballistic bodies at altitude. 1:48 p.m. THAAD joins, terminal intercept windows closing fast. 1:51 p.m. 3 impacts, minimal damage, 13 wounded, 0 deaths. 1:52 p.m. Growlers blind radars, harms hunt emissions. 1:53 p.m. Tomahawks and standoff weapons begin erasing launch sites. 2 p.m. Secondary nodes, production, guidance, logistics, start dying. 2:27 p.m. 44 minutes later, the enabling infrastructure is wrecked. American casualties, 0 killed, 13 wounded. Iranian outcome, launch capability shattered. Is command nodes smashed, sites burning in full daylight. This is what happens when you try to overwhelm layered defense and trigger the response machine. This is Udeid. This is American air power in the Middle East. This is Desert Hammer. Never attack American installations. Never attack American installations. Never attack American installations.